All right, moving on to our next item on the agenda. Don Bibb, Executive Director of the Housing Commission of Talbot County, to discuss the redevelopment of the Doverbrook Apartment project. Good evening, Mr. Bibb.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. So everyone wants to know what's going on in Doverbrook.
Yeah, it has come up.
I'm sure. Oh. Well, Madam Chair. We are in the midst of a debate with the Department of Housing and Urban Development about a policy change related to how the project-based vouchers are being issued for that project. As you know, we've been under a 45-day public comment. Actually, the plan in discussion has been sitting down at the town office for 50 days. We haven't received any public comments. We had a public hearing scheduled for last Monday. We postponed it because on the 8th day of issuance of that plan, there was a change made by our consultant to the plan. It was changed with the copy downstairs as well as one in our office. No one's come in to comment about it. HUD determined that it was a significant change, significant amendment, which required an additional 45-day public comment. We dispute that point. We dispute that by adding the additional days from when the original plan was given out and when that change was made, added to the plan policy term should be sufficient. At this point in time, we're waiting for a response out of HUD on our request for a waiver for that 45-day period. The project was complete back in the middle of May. We did our own opening of the wait list, social media. HUD determined that you have to advertise it in the newspaper. Our point was no one reads the newspapers anymore. No discredit to the local paper, but no one reads newspapers. Most of our client base relies on social media. So that's why we published it out on a social media page. At that point in time, we got 145 applications within a 3-day period. HUD said, you can't accept them. You've got to go out for a public comment, give time for people to respond to the changes in the plan. So here we are today, hopefully that our request for the waiver is approved. We've reached out to the regional office at HUD to see if we can get intervention, but we're prepared to move forward. That's the whole thing in a nutshell.
So did you advertise in the newspaper, Mr.
We did.
Mr. Bibb?
We did.
Okay.
That's why we're in that middle of that 45-day period, and now we're going on 50 days.
Okay, my next question.
Not only did we advertise, we actually went ahead and held the hearing, even though HUD had told us that we had to wait. Not one single person showed up for the hearing. Not one single person has even come in to look at the plan. So there's been no public interest in this plan whatsoever. And what HUD deemed a material change, I looked at, and to me, it's a very insignificant difference.
What change are we talking about?
The primary one was a description of the property involved. From going from basically specific projects that the Housing Commission owns, to spelling out the individual names of each. That's the extent of it.
One of the other changes was that we identified clearly the priority that would be given to returning residents from the wait list.
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
We have to give, as you know, we talked in the beginning about this project about first right of refusal.
Correct.
HUD says, yes, that's correct, but they still have to make an application and get on the wait list. So in order to clarify their positions, we had to go back and make sure that they understood when they applied, they were given preference on the wait list to be housed first.
Okay. How many people of the, what did you say, 145 applications? How many of those applications are previous tenants?
I believe
Doverbrook?
24. We didn't have a whole occupancy at the time the conversion took place. A lot of the folks that were living at Doverbrook ended up getting vouchers from the state and moved to other locations within the area, Cambridge or somewhere else in Talbot County. So in total, there was about 24 original residents that all got relocated and are currently being housed.
But even if they're being housed, they have a right to come back and be on the top of the list.
Based on the changes we made to the plan,
And so there's no guarantee that they will in fact get housing here because they may not meet the criteria.
that is correct.
I'll be dang.
That is correct.
So,
There's two processes of eligibility for the way that that project was financed.
okay,
One is it's a tax credit project, so you have to have the tax credit compliance, which is an income criteria. And then second is qualifying for a voucher, which they already have a tenant protected voucher. So it's a matter of converting them. And that means updating their income information so that we can then make sure that they're still qualified. And that's always been on the table.
Yeah.
That's always been on the table.
so maybe this is the question. At the end of the day, we got brand new apartments over there. We have a housing problem, affordable housing problem. HUD hasn't changed their policy from the beginning to now, or they have.
They did.
They changed their criteria. And so maybe the most relevant question for you is, when is it going to be open? I think at the end of the day, people in the community want to know, it's either going to be August or 45 days from August, which will put us in September.
We're
Would
waiting
you-
to hear back from HUD.
So
At
if-
this point, we have been ready to move people in for 2 months,
I get that.
and it's really in HUD's lap
I
when
get-
that can happen.
I understand. I comprehend well. So either is it August or it's going to be September because,
at this point.
so if they deny you now, so it'll be 45 days later. So it would be somewhere in August, maybe September. I mean, October.
Worst
somewhere.
case scenario, the end of September,
Okay.
September 21st, 22nd.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there anything we can do to help? I know it's HUD.
There's been a new regional administrator appointed. I reached out to him. I'm hoping that I can get dialogue back from him. I know he's on travel this week, but I did get a call from his office that he was being given the information to contact him. So hopefully, I get back. The request is to remove this 45-day period and let us move forward. We're prepared to move forward. We reached out last week to the 145 people that applied back in April and explained to them the circumstances and told them as soon as we had word, we'd be reaching back out to them and we got a date to open the wait list up. The board is prepared to move forward because there's two things that have to happen. We open the wait list, well, the plan goes before the board for adoption and approval, and they're prepared to do that right now. Once that's done, the next day, we can open up the wait list. And based on our reaction from April, it's a no-brainer. We're gonna be able to fill that community within 30 days.
I think we all realize that. That's why we're trying to expedite this. Would it help if we reached out to the new regional person at HUD? If we had the mayor, if we sent a letter from the council?
It probably would. Let me have these.
I would also suggest you send a letter to your 2 state senators and your state congressman, explaining the situation to them and asking them to intervene on our behalf.
So in the meantime, could you guys provide some information to our constituents in the community that they can get a clear understanding of what you just said? Because obviously the newspaper and somehow social media is not meeting those individuals because people are asking those kinds of questions within the community right now. And even if you have 145, how many apartments do you have? If everything went perfect today, how many do you have?
64.
So you're still going to have some people who will not have a place to reside because you only have 64.
64. And I always tell folks, don't anticipate that it's an automatic. These programs are not entitlement programs.
Okay.
You have an eligibility criteria that you have to go through. And I've been fielding, Reverend, as you know, questions for 2 weeks now at least, and my staff more time than that. And we've just been telling folks, as soon as we have an answer, we'll get information out there.
I think that maybe some kind of press release or some kind of information that we could help facilitate that could go out to some folks to help this information train, because anything less than that, you're going to have a lot of people who ride by those buildings and say, what in the world is going on?
Oh, everybody
And-
is wondering what's going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, to help out with information, it would kind of change the temperature in the room that if some information is provided. That's all I'm asking, because I'm not quite sure everyone comprehends what you just said, or they didn't even know it until now. So,
Do you have a suggestion on how best to get that information out? Because I think we know that not everyone reads the newspaper, so I'm not sure what the methodology would be that would be most effective.
you're asking me personally? Sure. I think that part of it should be that you should make a trip to some of these local churches and provide that information to them and let them make a clear announcement in that aspect. I can help you facilitate that in the local churches. Also, I think that you should have that information and give it to us, that we could upload it on the webpage. That we try to make a flyer. I mean, and then we could go old school, door to door. You know, let people know, and then when you look in our community, see who are the community leaders and drop information off at those locations, that at least we can get some information out there. Because if we don't do that, you're going to let people control the narrative. And that's what we don't want. Because if other people control the narrative, we'll never be able to win that back over. So those are the ways that I believe that we could be beneficial to you and help you out. So
Let's work on a press release, and we'll send it down here to the town office. I mean, you all are quite helpful and accommodating for us to have a plan. It's downstairs on the front desk down there.
I know.
To facilitate a press release, let us put together something.
Have you reached out to Connor Metz or anybody from the Star Democrat and asked them?
I spoke with Connor probably 10 days ago and gave him the best update I had at that point in time.
Okay.
Okay. 'Cause, yeah, while not a lot of people subscribe maybe to the paper these days, the paper does have a presence on Facebook, and so people can engage in that content without subscribing necessarily, I think, in some cases. So, or at least folks can share and comment and whatnot. So I think there is still opportunity through those channels using the paper. So, and I think it seems like that would be something that they might wish to help amplify.
And I think there are other people in our community that have a presence that could help give that information out too, that we could talk to them and see if they would help facilitate it. So,
And if you would be so kind as to forward the HUD information, the contact information for the regional person to President Abatello, so that he can get with the mayor and we can draft a response.
Mr. Wagner, I'm sorry. You had something to say?
Good evening. There's a simple solution here. I would call the governor's office. The governor is all over the state talking about affordable housing. And yet, this is a crisis, is what I'm hearing. Call the governor's office, engage the governor, and say, we have a crisis on our hands here east, can you help us? Call both your US senators. That's gonna be the best way. You have to go up the food chain. And I think the governor's office, as much as I've seen the governor out there, I think use the word crisis, because it is a crisis. Just say we need some help.
Thank
I
you.
think you're gonna be shocked at how fast things will happen. And if you don't have any luck, you know, I believe the senators would be engaged also. I may be able to help, but I think, you know, somebody here has a relationship with the governor, and that's where I'd start. I think he'll help you out. So you gotta sort of rattle the chains, and as we know, the DC is very bogged down right now with a lot of things.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
yeah.
Council President, if I may, ask
Sure.
a follow-up
Mr.
question.
Go ahead.
Don, tracking the timeline again, we had the 45-day request. It was then changed, and you have now appealed that change.
The change was done on June 19th.
Okay, so is the clock restarted, or are we suspended until we get a ruling?
Well, we're taking the initiative that, in order to be fair to the public, If we added those 7 or 8 days that HUD says, they didn't have an opportunity to review it to the overall end game, which puts it to tomorrow night.
Right.
That's what we're doing. We are prepared and have issued a statement for the other 45 days as a backup plan. And that prints out on Thursday, the 7th, which takes it through to September 22nd. But we're hoping that, intervention from all of the associated parties is going to get some resolve to this, because it doesn't make sense to me for them to make us go back 45 days.
Okay. So worst case, it sounds like there's a sunset at the end of this week, and then you add 45 days onto that. So end of September, we are moving forward regardless of intervention from the governor's office or the senators.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm tracking the time. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for those beautiful buildings and the wonderful tour. They're nice. That's a nice facility.
For
And
those of you who haven't seen them yet, you're more than welcome to come out. The Reverend was able to tour them the other day.
Thank you. And yeah, if you can forward that information to me, I'd appreciate it. I'll
We'll
make
get
sure
you
I get
guys
up with
this
the mayor when she gets back.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.